Hello everyone, welcome back to our session. So in this session we will be doing the Rajya Sabha or the Council of States. I hope you have all gone through the video which talked about the Lok Sabha. So this is in continuation to it. So to begin with the Rajya Sabha, Rajya Sabha is also called the upper house of the parliament or the council of states, or sometimes it's even called the second chamber or the house of elders. So this house or the council of states or the Rajya Sabha provides a representation to the states or the federating units of India. So this house is basically to represent the unity and integrity of the nation. We had already seen that whereas in the Lok Sabha, the members represent their constituencies, but in the Rajya Sabha, they represent the states and not the constituencies. And the members of the Rajya Sabha are indirectly elected by the members of the respective state legislative assemblies. So the system of voting is proportional representation by means of single transferable vote. We have already done elaborately what this system of proportional representation by means of single transferable vote is when we did the president's election. I hope you remember that. If not, please go back to it and see how the election happens. So, in the Indian context, the upper house or the Rajya Sabha or the Council of States do not give equal representation to the states. But in a typical federation like the USA, the units have equal representation. In the Indian context, we give representation in proportion to the population of the respective state. So higher the population of a state, higher is the number of representatives they get to send to the Rajya Sabha. Now coming to the composition of Rajya Sabha, the maximum strength of Rajya Sabha is fixed at 250, and as you know, 12 members in the Rajya Sabha are nominated by the president, and they are actually people or persons having special knowledge or practical experience in the fields of literature, science, arts, economics, and social service. So this is how you see most of the celebrities or people related to sports getting nominated to the Rajya Sabha and becoming MPs. The representatives, so these 12 people are nominated by the president based on their excellence in their respective fields. And when it comes to the representatives of the state, they are elected by the elected members of the state legislative assembly. And as I just told, it's done on the basis of proportional representation by means of single transferable vote. Moving on to the qualification of members of Rajya Sabha. So to become a Rajya Sabha MP, a person should have the following qualifications. Number one, as you can expect, he should be a citizen of India. And regarding his age, he should be at least 30 years of age. And he should possess other qualifications as prescribed by the parliament from time to time. So parliament can prescribe, maybe add certain qualifications or modify some of these qualifications. So it's up to the parliament to do it. So whatever is the qualification prescribed by the parliament from time to time, those qualifications will apply. Now, as we have seen in the case of Lok Sabha, the member of Rajya Sabha should not hold any office of profit under the government of India or government of any state. Office of profit is, as you know, is something that earns them a money. If he or she holds a position that gives him a monetary benefit, then that is considered as an office of profit. And one important qualification is that his or her name should be there on the or he or she should be the voter of any electoral constituency of the Lok Sabha. Okay, so in the Lok Sabha, to conduct elections, we have divided the whole entire country into various territorial constituencies. So whoever is a Rajya Sabha MP, his or her name should be there in the electoral roll of any constituency in the under the Indian Union. So, with regard to the election and term of the House, as I just mentioned, election to the Rajya Sabha is conducted in accordance with the system of proportional representation by means of single transferable vote. So, and unlike equal representation in the case of USA, we have proportional representation. Each state is given the number of representatives based on their population. So, populous state gets more representatives in the Rajya Sabha. And coming to the term of the House, Rajya Sabha is a permanent house unlike the Lok Sabha, and it can never be dissolved. Lok Sabha, we have seen, it could be dissolved on the recommendation of the Prime Minister or other such circumstances. Maybe a no confidence motion could be passed. But in the case of Rajya Sabha, you do not have an option. It's a permanent house. But you ensure that every member of the Rajya Sabha gets 6 years. So the arrangement is such that every 2 years, 1/3 of the members will retire. So, this way every member will get 6-year term. But the house as such is a permanent body. It cannot be dissolved. Now, the presiding officer of the house, the presiding officer of Rajya Sabha is the vice president. Just as we have speaker for the Lok Sabha, we have a chairman for the Rajya Sabha. In the case of Rajya Sabha, we call the presiding officer chairman, and the chairman happens to be the vice president. So whoever becomes the vice president, they automatically will be the chairman of the Rajya Sabha. So this is the reason we say vice president is the ex officio chairman of Rajya Sabha. Ex officio means by virtue of being in office. The chairman is the vice president. Now you also have a deputy chairman who, in the absence of the chairman, presides over the house. And then you also have a vice chairman's panel of 10 members. So these are actually people, the list of people who will be presiding over the meetings in the absence of both the chairman and the deputy chairman. Now moving on to the important part of the discussion, the powers of Rajya Sabha. First, let's take up the legislative powers of Rajya Sabha. Rajya Sabha has relatively lesser powers when compared to the Lok Sabha. We will see it when we take up the powers one by one. So to begin with the legislative powers, when we did the Lok Sabha, we saw that the Lok Sabha could make laws on union list, concurrent list and residuary subjects. Union list are those subjects that belong to the center. Concurrent list are those subjects that belong to both the center and the states. And residuary subjects are those that have not been listed in any of these 3 lists. So Rajya Sabha has co-equal powers with Lok Sabha in the matters of ordinary legislation, ordinary laws, but not in the case of money bills. So all bills which are not money bills can be initiated either in the Lok Sabha or in the Rajya Sabha. So in that sense, the powers are co-equal. But when it comes to disagreement between both the houses, between the Rajya Sabha and the Lok Sabha with the passage of a bill, as you know, we will be doing elaborately how a bill is passed in the coming videos. But to brief you about the passage of the bill, an ordinary bill could be initiated either in the Lok Sabha or in the Rajya Sabha. And so the bill has to be passed in the first house. Whichever house initiates the bill, they have to pass it first. Then it moves to the second house where it has to be passed, and then it goes to the president for his assent. Now, in the case of a disagreement between both the houses regarding a bill, the president can summon or call a joint meeting of the parliament. So this is basically done to resolve this deadlock. So and this is not a very common procedure, it's done very rarely. So the president can call a joint meeting of the parliament, but there again the bill is discussed and then voted upon. But given the numerical superiority of the Lok Sabha, the chances are more that the bill gets passed according to how the Lok Sabha members decide, because they are numerically stronger here. Anyway, the Rajya Sabha has got one special power for the which is regarding which is given in Article 249 of the Constitution. Article 249 of the Constitution talks about a special power of the Rajya Sabha, which is that if Rajya Sabha passes a resolution with not less than 2/3 majority, then Parliament can make laws with respect to any matter enumerated in the state list. State list will contain those subjects on which the states can make laws. But Rajya Sabha has a power to pass a resolution, and if the resolution is passed in the Rajya Sabha, then the Parliament can make laws with respect to any matter which is given in the state list. Thus, this is one way in which the Parliament gets to make laws in the state list. So, and again, as we had seen when we did bureaucracy, the Rajya Sabha can also create new All India services. Again, through a resolution, Rajya Sabha can create new All India services. These are two special powers of the Rajya Sabha. Now, coming to executive powers of Rajya Sabha, we had seen in the case of Lok Sabha that the Council of Ministers are directly responsible to the Lok Sabha. So they have a collective responsibility towards the Lok Sabha. But Rajya Sabha can also exercise some influence over the Council of Ministers, and this is through one way in which the Rajya Sabha can exert some influence over the Council of Ministers is through those ministers who hail from the Rajya Sabha. See, Council of Ministers will have people or ministers who belong either to the Lok Sabha or to the Rajya Sabha. So they should be belonging either to the two houses, either of the two houses they should be belonging. So through those ministers who belong to the Rajya Sabha can exert some influence over the Council of Ministers. But mainly the Rajya Sabha can keep a check over the executive or the Council of Ministers through tools like asking questions and supplementary questions, through various resolutions and discussions. Basically, it can supervise the activities of the executive through various parliamentary committees along with the members of the Lok Sabha. See, we have a lot of parliamentary committees in which both the members of the Rajya Sabha and the Lok Sabha will be present. So we have committees for various purposes in the parliament. So again, I will be sharing a video on the various parliamentary committees in the coming days. So you will get to know more about parliamentary committees. So parliamentary committees are also a tool through which the Rajya Sabha can actually supervise the activities of the Council of Ministers or the executive. Now coming to financial powers, and this also I had mentioned when we discussed the Lok Sabha. When it comes to financial powers, the powers of the Rajya Sabha are almost, the Rajya Sabha is a really, really weak body when it comes to the financial matters. So, Lok Sabha has a complete control over the finances of the center. You can even call it the custodian of the national purse, because you cannot levy any tax or modify or, incur expenditure by the central government without the approval of the Lok Sabha. So Lok Sabha has a total, exclusive control over the finances of the central government. And I had already mentioned in the previous videos that the money bills, which are very, very important when it comes to the finances of the country, it can originate only in the Lok Sabha. So after it is passed in the Lok Sabha, it goes to the Rajya Sabha. But if the Rajya Sabha does not accept the money bill, within a period of 14 days, then automatically the bill is considered to be passed, or the money bill, which on which the Rajya Sabha did not act for 14 days, that bill is deemed to have been passed by both the houses. So, the only thing that the Rajya Sabha can do over a money bill is to delay it by 14 days or 2 weeks, and nothing more than that. So it's a very weak position relative to the Lok Sabha in terms of the finances. Now coming to constituent, amendment powers. Better to use the word amendment powers. Regarding a constitutional amendment, Rajya Sabha and Lok Sabha have got truly co-equal powers, because Parliament can amend the constitution. So again, amendment is also done like any other normal bill. Amendment bill is passed. Like you pass any other bill, you have an amendment bill that proposes any amendment to the constitution. Amendments can be anything like, modifications, changes, or additions, deletions. Anything can be an amendment to the constitution. So an amendment bill is actually passed for amending the constitution. And in case of constitution, amendment of the constitution, the amendment bill has to be passed by both the houses of the parliament separately. So if one of the houses rejects the amendment bill, then that's there's no provision for joint sitting. In all other bills, we have seen that the president can convene a joint sitting of both the houses to resolve the deadlock. But in the case of constitutional amendment bills, we do not have a provision for joint sitting. It has to be passed by both the houses separately. So if one house rejects the bill, the bill dies there. Now coming to electoral functions, the elected members of Rajya Sabha actually participates in the election of the president, and along with the elected members of the Lok Sabha and state assemblies. So only elected members of the Rajya Sabha. Now when it comes to the election of the vice president, all members of Rajya Sabha take part. Both the elected and nominated members take part in the election of the vice president, along with the members of Lok Sabha, along with all the members of Lok Sabha. And now, the members of the Rajya Sabha are also part of the body that elects the deputy chairman from among the members. Chairman, as you know, is a vice president. You need not have any election. But for the deputy chairman, all the members of the Rajya Sabha, they come together, they elect a deputy chairman from among them. Okay, so that is regarding the electoral functions. Next is power of impeachment. So in the case of impeachments of president, vice president, or judges, or chairman or other chiefs of the constitutional bodies like Election Commission or UPSC, Rajya Sabha has a co-equal power along with the Lok Sabha. But in the case of the vice president, the proceedings of impeachment has to be introduced in the Rajya Sabha only. The initiation has to happen in the Rajya Sabha in the case of the vice president. Other than that, the impeachment powers of both the Lok Sabha and the Rajya Sabha are co-equal. Now, some other powers of the House also includes the power to create new states, or create or abolish legislative councils of states, These are some miscellaneous powers. It has the power to create all India services that are common to the union and the states. Now, approval of the Rajya Sabha is essential for the continuation of proclamation of emergency. So these are some of the miscellaneous powers. Now coming to the Speaker of the Lok Sabha. You know that the presiding officer of the Lok Sabha or the House of People is called the Speaker. So this concept of the office of the Speaker we have borrowed from the British House of Commons. But our Speaker is actually not identical to the British one, the British counterpart. So there are differences. In case of the Indian Lok Sabha, the Speaker is a member of the Lok Sabha. So the Speaker has to be a member of the Lok Sabha and he is elected by the members of Lok Sabha. So generally the election happens in the very first session after the general election. So he holds office till immediately before the first meeting of the newly elected Lok Sabha. So even after the government completes the term, the Speaker continues to hold office till before the newly elected Lok Sabha takes charge or they first meet. So he has a slightly extended tenure than the House, maybe by a couple of days. So when you talk about the Speaker, he is considered to be the guardian of the rights and privileges of the Lok Sabha MPs. He is considered to symbolize the dignity and power of the Lok Sabha. He is considered to be the guardian of the rights of the Lok Sabha MPs. So he enjoys a lot of powers under the Constitution because he is the official head of the House. He is the official head of the Lok Sabha. And he is the final word in interpreting parliamentary proceedings. So he has a lot of power and role and influence in interpreting parliamentary procedures or proceedings. So we have the option of removing the Speaker and the Deputy Speaker, provided we pass a resolution with absolute majority. So if a resolution is passed to that effect, then you may remove the Speaker. Now, the Speaker and the Deputy Speaker do not preside when the resolution for the removal is being discussed in the House. As you know, the Speaker or the Deputy Speaker usually presides over all the proceedings in the House, except when the resolution for their removal is discussed. So that's quite natural and logical, commonsensical. Now coming to the functions of the Speaker, he presides over the meetings of Lok Sabha and conducts over the proceedings of the House, the first and foremost, the primary function of the Speaker. So, and he also presides over the joint sittings. Apart from the Lok Sabha's meetings, he also presides over the joint sittings, which, as you know, is called by the President to resolve deadlocks in the passage of any bill. Now, he also has to maintain order and peace in the House, and he also interprets the rules of the House. So he, is the final interpreter of the parliamentary proceedings. And he is the one who gives permission to the members to speak in the House. You might have seen in, TV news or Rajya Sabha TV and all, that the members seek the permission of the Speaker before they speak. Now, he is also the authority to put bills to vote, and he is the one who announces the result of such voting. So, all bills are put to vote in the Lok Sabha, and he is the one who actually puts the bill to vote, and he is the one who announces the results of such voting. And Speaker, he or she can decide as to what resolution or question should be introduced in the House. So the speaker can decide as to whether a resolution should be allowed or whether a question should be allowed. So the speaker can decide. And all speeches made by the members in the house are addressed to the speaker. So this all members in the house, whenever they speak something in the house, they address it to the speaker. And very important, speaker decides as to whether a bill is a money bill or not. Now, the speaker also decides about the admissibility of questions put by the members. So speaker can decide whether certain questions should, if certain questions should be admitted or should be allowed or not. And in case of a tie, the speaker has a casting vote. This I think you get. In case of a tie in the passage of a bill or any motion or something, the speaker has a casting vote. Otherwise, the speaker the speaker does not vote unless there is a tie. Now, the speaker is also the chief spokesperson of the house. He appoints the chairman and deputy chairman of all the parliamentary committees and other committees under the Lok Sabha. He is considered to be the guardian of the privileges of the house, and he is considered or regarded as the protector of the interests of the minority parties. Though usually the speaker hails from the majority party, he once elected the speaker, he is ideally supposed to be acting as a neutral person. He is not supposed to show his party allegiance while holding the office of the speaker. So he is hence considered the protector of the interests of the minority parties. And he also presides over the joint sitting of the parliament whenever the president calls for such meetings. And he directly controls the functions of the secretarial staff of the house. So the Lok Sabha is assisted by a secretariat, who assists the or who does all the office job related to this office. So the speaker is in charge of the secretarial staff of the house, or the house of the secretariat attached to the Lok Sabha. Now you also have a deputy speaker, which, as you know, is the person who presides over the house in the absence of the speaker. So he is also elected from among the members of the Lok Sabha, and he holds office till he ceases to be a member of the Lok Sabha, or unless he resigns himself from the post. You may remove the deputy speaker by a resolution passed with absolute majority. And in the absence of the speaker, he has all the powers, and he performs all the functions that the speaker was performing till then. And there are some cases you appoint deputy speaker as a member to some of the parliamentary committees. And whenever you have deputy speaker as a member of the parliamentary committee, then de facto he becomes the chairman of that particular committee. Now you also have to be familiar with this term called pro tem speaker. And again, this was also mentioned when I did the Lok Sabha. So pro tem speaker actually presides over the very first meeting of the new Lok Sabha. So after the after the general election, you have the new Lok Sabha meeting. So the speaker of the previous Lok Sabha is not in office any longer. So you should but you have not yet elected a new chairman or a new speaker. So you should have somebody to preside over the very first meeting, and it is in this meeting that the speaker and deputy speaker are elected. So, and this is also a constitutional post, and president appoints the eldest member of the newly elected Lok Sabha as the pro tem speaker. So this is the convention. So eldest member becomes the pro tem speaker. So he presides over the very first meeting of the new Lok Sabha, and when in office, he has all the powers of the speaker. So his responsibility is basically to administer the oath function of the newly elected members of the Lok Sabha, and also to elect a new speaker, because after the new speaker is elected, he is not in office. The pro tem speaker is not in office. So the office of the pro tem speaker is actually a temporary office, and it ceases to exist after speaker's election. So this is all about the Rajya Sabha and the speaker. So thank you all.